Welcome back to Therapy with Tasha. If you're looking to learn, heal, and discover more about yourself, you are at the right channel. I encourage you to remember to put that notification bell on and subscribe so that you are staying in the loop and up to date about new and informative videos. And of course, remember when this video is done, put that thumbs up so that I know that it resonated with you. So the other day, I had to make a decision, a big decision. And I realized it wasn't the need to make the decision that was my issue, but it was the boundary that I needed to erect by making that decision. And in that moment, I started to really think about boundaries and how they shape choices and decisions that we make with others, co-workers, friends, intimate partners, and family. So if you've struggled with erecting meaningful boundaries, how to set a boundary, or maybe you've never even thought about the importance of setting a boundary, this video is for you. So what does it mean to set a boundary with someone else in your life? If you think about a boundary, imagine a boundary as a personal line that you're drawing around your personal space. Boundaries protect a person's personal space as well as their mental space. And boundaries also involve physical and emotional limits that you place between yourself and someone else. And boundaries will differ from one person to the next. So I think it's really important here just to note that you don't want to compare the boundary that you place with the boundary that someone else places. So you may be someone who would set a boundary with a colleague that says, I don't spend time outside of work. And that person's boundary may not be so, and they may be open to spending time and forming deeper relationships outside of the workplace. So I want to look at the different types of boundaries that you can set with others, because it's important to determine, is my boundary that I'm going to set, is it flexible or inflexible? Now, a clear boundary is flexible. A clear boundary, it is often more warm. It creates a space where people are more comfortable sharing their thoughts and feelings. An example of a clear boundary is someone asks you to go out at 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. And you tell them, I can't meet at that time in the work week, but on a Friday or a Saturday, I'm open to meeting at 9 p.m. So what you have done here is you've acknowledged the request, but you went on to establish why, clearly, why that request doesn't work for you, but you noted what does work for you in future planning. And the beauty of a clear boundary is that it is assertive and it clearly communicates your need or your preference. Now, a rigid boundary is inflexible. Think about it like a wall. There's no wiggle room. There's no budging, and the preference that you make, that's it. You've established that is what it's going to be. There's no movement around it. An example of a rigid boundary is, say someone has a friend, right? And they state, I know someone who you might be interested in. And in making a rigid boundary, that person would say, I don't date anyone who knows my friends. So this person, they expressed a fixed position about a preference of choice, and there's no room for negotiation. So when determining a boundary, you want to start by identifying, is it going to be flexible or is it going to be inflexible? The next thing you want to be aware of when it comes to setting boundaries is how to identify the types of boundaries you can set. Boundaries can be set in many dimensions of our lives, and sometimes the struggle that I've heard people talk about when it comes to setting boundaries is not recognizing that actually a boundary can be set in multiple domains of our life. We've just got to recognize in what dimension of our life does a boundary hold meaning for us. So I want to look here and just highlight some of the common areas where boundaries can be set in your life. And the first one is physical boundaries. So this includes your body and your personal space. So letting someone know, I prefer handshakes versus a hug when I meet you, that is you setting a boundary that protects your personal space with others, and it increases autonomy, meaning your say-so around the choices you make with your body. The other type of boundary is a sexual boundary. And this speaks to creating parameters around your sexual wants and needs with an intimate partner. Now, sexual boundaries with partners, it's actually very important because it is letting that partner know what sexual activities you will or won't engage in, right? Also, sexual boundaries can also help identify limits related to behaviors of either persons outside of the relationship. We also have emotional boundaries. Now, emotional boundaries come into play when you're looking at your feelings and personal details about yourself. So if you want to provide a sense of emotional safety because you feel uncomfortable sharing or disclosing certain parts of your life to someone, this is you erecting an emotional boundary. And this is going to protect your feelings and your thoughts. So if you choose not to overshare, you're creating an emotional boundary. The other type of boundary is a financial boundary. Now, financial boundaries are important because they protect your financial resources and your belongings. So if you've made the choice, I'm not going to lend that money to a friend, a family member, you're creating a financial boundary with that person. So, no, I cannot lend you this, maybe I can lend you that. No, I cannot lend you this, and that's all, right? So it is about creating a boundary around your resources. There's also boundaries that are related to time. Now, this boundary is often the challenging boundary for many people because we are often pulled in like multiple directions and everybody wants to squeeze in so much into 24 hours a day. But knowing when you're at your limit or knowing when you want to choose to spend your time in a different way and expressing that is you creating a boundary with your time. So I want to leave you now with how do you begin to set the actual boundary. So you went ahead, you've determined it's flexible or inflexible. And you've also identified what type of boundary you want to set in whatever dimension of your life. Now I want to go ahead and look at how do I actually go ahead now to set the boundary. The first thing you can do is practice saying the boundary out loud. All right, so this looks like you've identified your boundary. You want to get comfortable with what it feels like to vocalize that boundary out loud. This actually will improve your chances of actually going ahead and setting that boundary with the other person. And if you need to, I've told clients, look in the mirror, practice saying it a couple times. This is getting yourself oriented and comfortable to what it feels like. The other thing is you want to keep it simple. You don't have to bring the other person to all of your reasons and your feelings as to why you're setting the boundary. Your main objective is to let them know the choice you're making and, if applicable, what alternatives work for you. And lastly, in order to make the boundary effective, you want to resist being reactive. So maybe there's a situation that has been plaguing you, it's been triggering, maybe it's been upsetting, so it's a boundary you've needed to make. But to let your intentions be known to the other person by you want to ensure that you're not reactive. So you just want to set a limit. You're not looking to set conflict into motion. So choose a time that you feel relaxed and that you perceive the other person is receptive to the conversation. So boundaries create safety, mutual respect, and they help you prioritize you. your needs, your wants, your interests. So boundary setting is important, and I want you to try to go ahead and set a boundary today. Thank you for watching the video. Please remember to share this video because we are all navigating boundaries at some point in our lives. So I will see you next week for Therapy with Tasha. Thanks for tuning in.